front of a killer's gun, taking the bullet meant for her. Although the shooter had been quickly subdued, it was too late for the wounded man. Gasping in pain from the slug lodged in his gut, he urged me to go to his office and find his copy of the dossier. Within moments, his voice had fallen to a croaked, desperate whisper as he struggled to speak, to find words, which he somehow managed to do, right before he died in my arms. I winced now at the memory and swallowed half the whiskey, barely aware of the artful harmonics flowing from the CD player atop the nearby bureau. Denied even the meager solace I usually derived most nights from the soulful, insistent music. Truth is, I was still pretty scarred, both physically and psychologically, from the events of the past few weeks. The kidnapping of that troubled new patient, the shocking violence and sudden, unexpected deaths that followed, the final showdown with her captors, and throughout, my own headstrong, perhaps foolish, involvement. God knows I still had the bruises to prove it. I sighed heavily. My eyes, tired after a long day of seeing patients, squinted down at the blurred, Xeroxed documents arranged chronologically in the ringed binder, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, especially the handwritten notes of the investigating detectives, as though, in the soft amber light of the table lamp, the hurriedly scrawled words had become meaningless ciphers. Not that the police reports made up the bulk of the binder's contents. This painstakingly prepared dossier was literally the paper trail of my entire life. From birth certificate to University of Pittsburgh psychology degree, from my clinical experience to favorite bar, hospital affiliations to tax returns. My family and its many sorrows. My marriage to the former Barbara Camden, also a Ph.D., including our brief stint in couples counseling. My friends and colleagues, my private practice, my work as a consultant to the Pittsburgh Police. All my 40-plus years, condensed into a stack of documents, copied records, data printed off the internet. The gains and losses, both professionally and personally, that made up my life. But it was the material pertaining to Barbara's death that drew my repeated, almost obsessive interest. Personal details were compiled by the police at the start of their investigation. Her own family's history, her noted career as a linguistics professor at Pitt, her marriage to me not long after we'd first met as graduate students. Then came the forensics from the crime scene, the futile canvas of the surrounding area, leads that went nowhere, anonymous tips that never panned out, and finally their interview with me a month after the mugging, as I lay in the hospital bed recovering from my own gunshot wound. There hadn't been much I could tell them. Barbara and I had been approached coming out of a restaurant at the Point by an armed thug in a hoodie. He was about my size, I vaguely recalled, though his face was almost totally obscured by the peaked hood and the black of night. A chilled darkness barely broken by the restaurant's soft-hued exterior lamps and a single light canopied over the valet parking kiosk. It had all happened in what seemed like moments. The guy grabbed for Barbara's purse. She resisted, and I tried to intervene. In the struggle, 3 shots went off, 2 finding my wife. I took the third to my head, putting me on the ground. Then the mugger ran off, his echoing footsteps the last thing I remembered before passing out. He was never found. Someone inside the restaurant called 911, but by the time the police and an ambulance arrived, Barbara had died at the scene. I, for some reason, didn't. I still bear the scar from the bullet that pierced my skull, evidence of my unlikely survival, my inexplicable, unearned luck. I guess I've been trying to earn it ever since. Despite the knot tightening in my stomach, I threw back the rest of the whiskey. It tasted as sour as I felt. Whatever clue I was supposed to discover in this dossier still eluded me, after a half-dozen careful readings on as many nights. Maybe the dying man had been wrong, and there was nothing to find. I was just about to close the binder for the night when